I never thought that I would be here. The ship I thought was gone, especially where I was a couple of years ago.
Yes, he's through to the Wimbledon semi-finals, but is Aussie tennis star Nick Kyrgios a one-of-a-kind champ, or is he a bit of a brat?
Plus, Albo hits back after being accused of worrying more about overseas trips than the crises back home.
And I really don't want to be that person, but COVID. It's back. It's rearing its ugly head again. I'm Georgie Tunney.
And I'm James Law.
And this is Flash Drive. J-Law, what a week. Great to be back.
A bit going on. Today especially has been busy.
Really busy.
It's exciting.
Busy in the office, busy outside of the office. We are based in New South Wales, so of course there's more horrific flooding happening around the state. We're not getting into that too much on the potty today, just because things are constantly changing. But as always, our thoughts are with everyone who is being affected by these natural disasters, which just keep on happening.
Never stops.
Yeah.
Never stops.
Yeah, far more frequently than we're used to. Anyway, we do, though, have probably, I think, away from the natural disasters and all of that horror that is happening here in Australia, most Aussies' eyes have actually been across the world in what's going on at the All England Club and what's been happening with one man in particular, Nick Kyrgios. So he is having an amazing run at Wimbledon, secured his spot in the semi-finals. However, there's a storm of controversy surrounding his every move. We've got used to that. Now, most notably, of course, the news this week that he's going to be facing court over allegations that he assaulted his ex-girlfriend last year. Now, because that matter is before the court, we don't intend to get into that on the podcast today. Instead, we want to focus on the on-court behaviour, because that's what everyone is talking about, and the run-ins that he's having with the reporters over there in the UK, but also with his fellow players too. Jayla, I want your thoughts on this. This was some of the back and forth between Stefanos Tsitsipas and Nick Kyrgios after the Aussies' fourth-round win.
A bit disappointed with some of the things that went down. Yeah, it felt kind of a circus in a way. I like what his tennis has to bring to our sport. Like, he's very different. I really hope all us players can come up with something and make this a cleaner version of our sport. Have this kind of behavior be not allowed, not accepted, not tolerated. I don't know what to say. I'm not sure how I bullied him. He was the one hitting balls at me. He was the one that hit a spectator. He was the one that smacked it out of the stadium. I didn't do anything. Well, I'll be pretty upset if I lost to someone 2 weeks in a row as well. Like, maybe he should figure out how to beat me a couple more times first and then get to that.
Funny or bratty?
Well, I mean, we'll get into this. I think with this example, I didn't really see Kyrgios bullying him.
No.
I thought that was a bit of pushing it a bit far.
Yeah,
and,
especially from Stefanos Tsitsipas. Bit of pot kettle black here.
Come on, mate.
Yeah.
But that did make me laugh. I think Kyrgios is a bit of a brat, but this one made me laugh. His response was pretty funny.
Well, Nick is the first Aussie that's made it through to the Wimbledon semi-finals in nearly 2 decades. I should say the first Australian man in the singles who's made it through in nearly 2 decades. But it's really been his on-court antics, whether it be spitting at heckling spectators, blasting umpires. He's been fined now from the All England Club at this particular tournament. Here's how the former Wimbledon champ Pat Cash responded to some of these actions.
It was absolute mayhem. He's brought tennis to the lowest level I can see, as far as gamesmanship, cheating, manipulation, abuse, aggressive behaviour to umpires, to linesmen. He was lucky to even get through the first set. He should have been defaulted in the first set. And it's got something's got to be done about it. It's an absolute circus.
Circus, using Stefanos Tsitsipas' word as well. Manipulation, cheating, abuse, aggressive behaviour and questioning gamesmanship. J-Law, is this a bit much? Come on.
Well,
just from Pat Cash.
Right, but I don't know. Some of it holds a bit of water for me. I think that Kyrgios has been pretty hypocritical this week. The thing that sticks out to me is he was whinging at some people in the crowd for having a go at him.
Mm-hmm.
And what was his response? Something about, I don't come to the checkout and tell you how to do your 9 to 5 job.
And yell at you, yes, while you're at
Right.
the supermarket scanning shit. Yeah.
Right. At the same time, he's chewing out the umpire, you know, and criticising him. And it's sort of like, you can't have it both ways, right? You can't, be ripping into them, and then when anyone criticises you, he plays a bit of the victim, don't you think?
Why can't you have it both ways if you're a professional athlete with a personality?
I like his personality, but he does come across like a whinger sometimes, don't you think? Like he is like, everyone's out to get me.
Yes.
And like, I'm a island alone. But it's like every professional sports person puts up with that kind of rubbish. Not everybody reacts in the way that he does.
Do you think that everyone does get that level of rubbish, though, directed towards them? I mean, he's a walking headline, whatever he does. Nick Kyrgios, wherever he goes, whatever he's doing, whoever he's hanging out with, whatever he says, if he sneezes, like, it's going to be front page news. And
Isn't that true of Ash Barty?
not in the same extent, I don't think.
Why? Because she carries herself in a very different way.
Yes, but I would also say, and I love Ash Barty, but I wouldn't say she's the best personality,
No.
right?
No, she can be a bit dull.
Which is okay. And so this is something that, again, Tsitsipas said in his post-match press conference, where he was saying, you know, asking, or really a call to arms of other tennis players to really stamp out anyone having a personality or showing emotion on court. Like, I think that's where you get into the trap of having then just a whole line of Novak Djokovic's, really. Like, he can get very vocal and get the crowd involved, but when he's serious, he's so boring. And he goes straight through all of his games with ease because he's so good. I think we also forget about previous tennis stars and their antics on court. And everyone is kind of like, you know, remember Andre Agassi? Everyone looks back at him now and he's a darling of tennis. But he was absolutely ridiculed and criticised for his behaviour on court. Roger Federer, not an angel. And I love him. I'm the leader of the Roger Federer fan club. But he wasn't an angel throughout his career. But now he'll be remembered as the gentleman of the game. And do I think that Nick Kyrgios will be in the sport long enough to maybe have that transformation as Roger Federer? I hope so. All I know is that I want to watch him play. I want to watch his post-match press conferences. I want to be lining up around the block trying to get into a stadium to see him play with Thanasi Kokkinakis, which is what we saw at the Australian Open. And yes, he ruffles some feathers, but when it comes to an opponent perspective, I think that's part of his game plan at this point. I think he knows what he's doing.
No, but there is so many contradictions in what he says, though. Like, he kind of clearly gets annoyed at the media and the media's attention on him and the media's treatment of him. But then, you know, in his press conferences this week, he's been saying, when he was challenged, he says things like, I love the attention and I love the, you know, any publicity is good publicity. You know, and he says stuff like that where it's kind of like he both revels in it and also hates it at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, which is just like, you can't have it both ways, mate.
I would argue that you can, for the betterment of the game, which sounds weird because lots of people would be like, he's bringing down the integrity of tennis. Whereas I think he's bringing interest to tennis. He's keeping it alive because you've got young people interested in the game, following him. He's got this NBA basketballer personality in a game that really is, you have to be silent at every single point, the crowd. I do understand what you are saying, though, in terms of the hypocrisy and the contradiction, because sometimes he does say things which make him hard to like, and especially make Aussie sports fans hard to like. This is some of him again from a press conference this week.
If you think that everyone is against,
No, I don't really care. They have to watch me play for fourth round of Wimbledon. Got a pretty nice paycheck this week as well, so I don't really care about what they think and what they're going to comment on my Instagram or anything like that.
Comment on his Instagram. I think he does care, actually. I think he's had to put this protective bubble around him and then get this false bravado in a lot of ways to make it appear that he doesn't care, and that's where it comes back with this wisecracking and smart-ass sort of answers, to be blunt. But, I mean, you know, I get it. I get it from an Aussie sports fan's perspective in particular, because we hate to see talent wasted or perceived as wasted. And I think that one of Nick Kyrgios's biggest crimes in Australia is that he sees tennis as a job.
Yeah, well, he's been on the record saying that he doesn't really enjoy the game, and he'd rather be a basketballer, right?
Yes.
Because, and I mean, I get it. I think that's the thing about why we have a lot of these volatile personalities in tennis is because it's a really frustrating game.
Yeah.
The scoring structure and the way it works to win the games and sets. It must be really annoying when you can get this close and be playing really well, and then it all falls apart. So I think that that's why you get these volatile personalities.
Yeah, and there's nothing that everyone wants to talk about more than Nick Kyrgios. Even if they're like, would everyone just shut up about him? They want to talk about it so they can tell you to shut up about him. Talk back this week, talk back radio this week, every single article that's been posted, even reposting some of Flash's content this week on my own personal accounts. Every single response has varied, I guess, but you are on the fence. It's either you love him and you're like, isn't he great for the game? Or you hate him and you're just like, what an absolute twit. Would he shut up and do something else?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that stuck out to me this week was when he had a bit of a run-in with a UK journo.
Yeah.
And I think this gets to what you're talking about the traditions of the game. Let's have a listen to him going toe-to-toe with a journo.
We all know the Wimbledon dress code rules are very strict. Competitors must be dressed in suitable tennis attire that's almost entirely white, and this applies from the point at which the player enters the court surround.
Yep.
Why then would you walk onto centre court with bright red trainers on and do an interview in a red cap?
Because I do what I want.
So you're above the rules?
No, I'm not above the rules.
So what is it? They don't apply to you?
I just like wearing my Jordans.
But there are rules specifically against that. The referee, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but the referees are going to be speaking to you about it.
That's okay.
Afterwards, and that's okay.
I'll wear some triple whites tomorrow.
But that's fine then. So everyone else in both draws follows.
But no one else,
Nick Kyrgios does.
even after Wimbledon, no one else really walks with Jordans on the court.
You get the gist. I mean, yeah, it's pretty funny. But don't you think that's another example of that hypocrisy that I'm talking about? Are you above the rules? No, I just do what I want.
That's what makes him entertaining. That's why I can't look away, because he is captivating. You don't know what he's going to say. And I do think that he gets his back up a lot when he is confronted by the media and when he is in those post-match press conferences, because it is this really combative style relationship. Even that journo who's asking that question there, the rest of the press conference was pretty amenable. It was actually pretty chill until that. But journos, they're there to get a story as well.
Oh yeah.
And so he knows, he's like, if I get that, then maybe this is headlines. And of course we run it, I enjoy it, I consume it, I think it's great. Also, fun fact though, on Wimbledon, do you know why they have to wear white?
Why?
Because it's this really old-fashioned rule, because it is the oldest tennis tournament in the world, but it's to avoid being able to see sweat patches.
Oh.
Yeah. So they created this in the 1800s when Wimbledon was first began, and it was meant to be improper if you showed any kind of sweat.
Oh.
To which now you see Rafael Nadal just absolutely skirting those rules in the other Grand Slam tournaments. He's changing his top all the time.
Right.
You're not meant to sweat in those 5-set marathon matches.
Oh, there you go. Well, I mean, the important traditions of the game and all that sort of stuff. I can understand how he's kicking back against that.
Yeah.
I mean, wearing shoes that aren't white. It's stupid. And then the things that they make the women wear, where it's you've still got to have a little skirt and all this.
Yes.
It's that I find a bit offensive. Why does tennis still hang on to those archaic rules, do you think?
It's a status thing, especially for Wimbledon, because it is the oldest tennis tournament. It's seen as the most prestigious. It's seen as, the birthplace of the Grand Slam, and it's still the only Grand Slam that's played on grass. So it does have a lot of exclusivity factors, I guess, around it. And it does help that the players of all of the tournaments, they eye Wimbledon as the number one, because tennis players themselves are nerds, right? There's a reason that Ash Barty, we love her. There's a reason that Ash Barty, the highlight of her career was Wimbledon. And after she won Wimbledon, she was like, I I might resign at the age of 25. I might just get out of this game because I've achieved it all. So then that makes me think that leads the Wimbledon officials to be able to get away with this. I don't see it changing. Will players keep pushing at it? Of course. Your Nick Kyrgios, Serena Williams, Andre Agassi's, like they're always going to push back when someone's like, you have to behave and be under the thumb. This is what you do. Mm-hmm. I'm interested to see if Australia can accept Nick for what he is and everything that he brings, because everyone has an opinion on him.
Well, you know what? We love a winner, and he is playing some incredible tennis right now. This year, he's just been stellar. Like, his serve is like best in the game, right?
Yeah.
So, if he gets the title, I'm sure that we'll forgive a lot.
Success absolves all sins.
In this country,
That's the message, Flash drivers. Remember, Flash drivers, if you're loving the podcast, let us know. Subscribe on your favourite podcast app, leave a review, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell everyone. Spread the word.
Georgie, the battered and bruised Federal Coalition tried a new line of attack against Anthony Albanese this week, essentially accusing him of swanning about overseas with Emmanuel Macron and Vladimir Zelensky while shirking responsibilities at home. Let's have a listen to the Shadow Treasurer, Angus Taylor, having a go. And then this is Albo's reaction, as well as New South Wales Premier Dominic Perrottet.
So there's 30,000 people who have been told to evacuate their homes, but the PM's more concerned about his reputation on the global stage than and making sure people in New South Wales have a place to sleep.
Some people apparently didn't get the memo about the new politics. The new politics is about getting things done and achieving outcomes and working together in the interest of the Australian public.
In some quarters, the Prime Minister is being criticised for being away. What I would say is, from my perspective, the federal government needs to balance international concerns and domestic concerns. But as soon as he could, he picked up the phone to call me.
So, Georgie, I reckon that the Coalition thought they were onto a winner here, trying to, let's face it, they were trying to compare what happened here to ScoMo's Hawaii trip.
Yes.
That's what they were trying to do.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that they were trying to drudge up those same feelings and that sentiment of, we hate this move for what happened with ScoMo going to Hawaii on that ill-fated holiday. But I just think they've missed the mark here completely. Like, it did not land. If that was their intention, it has landed in 14 suburbs away. Because what do you mean? Which I think, and I do think Albo, I may have said this week as well, which engagement would you have liked him to miss then? Would it have been going to war-torn Ukraine, showing solidarity with Vladimir Zelensky? Just bypass that? Bye. And then you don't want to smooth over relations with Emmanuel Macron, which were so nearly irrevocably damaged with that submarines deal. You want to get rid of that as well? And should we just skip NATO talks? Even though we're not part of NATO, but pretty significant chat at the moment on the global stage. It kind of baffled me. I think this backfired for them in terms of a criticism. It was like an unloaded gun. Yeah. Really? There was no ammunition behind this for them.
Yeah, because the comparison falls apart so quickly if you look at it. Because the problem was that ScoMo was on holiday. Albo was not on holiday.
Yeah.
And also, the thing is, ScoMo he lied about this, or at least obfuscated about the truth about where he was for a matter of days. That's what made it so bad. So they don't really compare. But, the other thing is, Albo and Penny Wong, the foreign minister, they both really prioritised since getting into government going overseas. Was that the right move? Shouldn't they be more focused on domestic issues?
I think hindsight is always going to be a good thing. At the time, I think the timing of just when Albo became Prime Minister, there was already these international summits and meetings on the horizon. So I don't think he's orchestrated that. I don't think he had necessarily a choice. There's an argument, should he send... Is it Richard Marles who's Defence Minister now?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it's hard when there's a new government.
I've accessed my brain Google and it is.
Well, there's an argument that, you might be able to send him to some of these events along with Penny Wong, potentially. But then remember when the coalition sent Zed Sezelja to the Solomon Islands instead of Maurice Payne?
That didn't go down so well.
Like, that didn't go down very well at all. And I think you do want your main man, your number one, being there to represent Australia. So I think it's more a coincidental timing thing rather than it being a poor look for the government.
Sure, and like Albanese, I thought had a good answer for some of this criticism, and what he says is it's not a one-man show, right?
Yes.
When he was overseas, then the acting PM was in charge, and, when there was the bad news about the interest rates, there's Jim Chalmers, and I think that that's actually a strength of Labor's, and the coalition didn't play the game that way as much. It was much more the ScoMo show. And I think Albanese is much more comfortable with letting his ministers rise when, their portfolio is in the centre of attention. And I think that's a good thing. Like, I don't think it has to be about any one personality.
It's made me feel a little bit more settled, maybe. I'm not sure. I don't feel like I'm on tenterhooks as much as when I was with ScoMo. And maybe that was because he had painted himself as the guy. So when the guy is missing, you're like, holy shit, we're in trouble here. Whereas maybe that is a positive, and I think you're right, it is a strength of the Albanese government. Ironically, in the lead up to the election, we were talking at length about how that was probably a negative if it came down to this presidential style election campaign, because it was like Albo's colleagues were taking all of that attention away from him and we weren't trusting the guy. Whereas now, fast forward, he's the Prime Minister and I'm like, well, I already know Jim Chalmers. I know Penny Wong. I know Richard Marles, who I have now remembered is the Defence Minister. I know these faces are familiar to me, so I don't feel like the ship is at sea, that we're going to go under.
Yeah, well, that's it. And, the other thing about the way that Albanese reacted to this criticism this week is he said, looks like someone didn't get the memo about the new politics. So he's trying to really instill this change, like bringing down the temperature of politics in this country. He's talking about, not getting combative with journalists, not being so critical and sledging the opposition just for the sake of it. And he said that, it's more about delivering stuff. Do you feel like that things do feel a bit different now?
Yes and no. I think I'm cynical about it as a concept, and I'm going to need more time to be able to form a proper opinion based on evidence. I just think that given any opportunity, any type of oppositional government is going to take their chance. If they see it as there's an opening to hand out some criticism and make a jab at their opposition, they're going to do it. And I think that it would honestly be remiss of them if they didn't. I'm still in that sort of mind frame. And I guess Albanese has been very, very strong on this, so I'm intrigued to see if he can pull it off. Granted, while he was overseas, all of that furor and controversy and debate and anger happened with the crossbenchers losing some of their staff, right? And then they were very quick to throw his own words back at him and be like, I thought we were going to be a more collegial, presence and have chats, and you've gone away. But I don't think that really landed either with Australians in particular, because we were like, oh, stop crying.
Oh, I only have 2 staff instead of 4.
Yeah. It's not going to be a popular, thought bubble for any Aussie to really care about. Yeah. What do you think? Do you think that it's made a difference?
I think that the temperature has been turned down, but this is natural for a new government, right? They're just finding their feet, Just wait.
Yeah. Something
will land in their laps, or there'll be some scandal and it'll be on like Donkey Kong.
Would you really see the opposition leader Peter Dutton turning a blind eye to something that was just excellent ammunition to throw back at the Labor Party?
That is not in his nature.
No, and nor should it be. Yeah.
No, yeah, get the popcorn. Love hearing us unpack the biggest headlines of the week? Make sure you follow Flash on the socials so you don't miss a moment. We're at Flash News on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok and YouTube. Get on it.
J-Lo, I don't really want to talk about this next topic, but I guess I will. And I guess I'm going to bring you on the journey with me because I can't do it alone. Just when we thought that life was getting back to normal. There's news that COVID, she's not gone anywhere. She's been here the whole time. The pandemic is not over. Apparently it's coming back with a vengeance. 2 new Omicron strains taking hold of Australia, and as AMA Vice President Dr. Chris Moy told the ABC, there's a lot of worry in the medical community.
Now, the thing is now we're facing a new surge, a really worrying surge. Can I say, right across the country, the level of concern by health authorities about the BA.4/5 Omicron subvariants, which are more infectious, cause high reinfection rates and have a greater propensity for the lungs. So we are looking at hospitals which are already full, facing a real disaster in terms of being overrun.
You know what words I don't appreciate, J-Law? Disaster, overrun, really worrying surge. Aren't we done?
I'm done. I am mentally done.
I know.
With COVID.
Me too.
And, you know, I've been a bit lax with the mask wearing and
Have
stuff.
you?
Like on the train and in Ubers and stuff.
On behalf of Dr. Kerry Chant, I tut at you.
Sorry, Dr. Kerry. I didn't mean it.
But this is the big question, right? Well, the dilemma, I guess, that's now facing, as Dr. Chris Moy just said there, the medical community, who seem to be yelling at us, being like, put the masks back on. And we're like, la, 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 what's a mask? Like, that's honestly how I feel right now, because it's like, I'm done. And you gave us the individual responsibility to kind of look after ourselves and judge when we feel comfortable about wearing masks or not now. And I think it's going to be really hard for them to get that collective compliance back if they were going to reintroduce mandates, like mask mandates. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think Australians will cop it. We were compliant for a very, very long time.
Very long time.
And I just don't think that anyone has the energy anymore. And, you know, do you think another state government might get the itchy finger and start to, like, clamp down? Because I feel like that will not go down well.
Yes, I think possibly, but they'd have to really time their run, right? Because even just at a state level, even if they go on their own ways as they have done throughout the pandemic and verge from what the national guidelines are, you'd want to be confident that your population, your cohort of residents are going to adhere to it, because otherwise then you lose all kind of power and sway, right? And authority.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I still think that there are sections of the population in Australia, based on state and territory, wherever they're living, in how they see masks and how they see COVID precautions. Like, I still think that Victoria is very, very mindful of it, which I find quite interesting because I lived in Melbourne throughout all of the lockdowns.
Yep.
And I would be very hesitant, or just I would do it, of course, if there was a mask mandate put back into place. But like wearing your mask 24/7 indoors at work, I've done 2 years of it. It's not comfortable. It's not nice. I know doctors do it all the time. I don't save lives. It's just, I would really struggle. I would struggle mentally with going back there.
Yeah.
And
I think most people would, yeah. But I feel like the thing about Victoria was, for the longest time, they went through the hell, like the worst lockdown in the country, a couple of them, and they didn't want to undo the work by just throw away your mask. So I think that's why the Victorians look at it fractionally differently.
Yes.
But I'm sure I can speak for them and say that they do not want to go back.
Well, no, and they kind of wear it like a badge of honour, I would say. They're like, we got through this, we can do it again. Whereas I'm just out. I mean, now I don't live there right now, but it would have to be, and this is quite sad for me to say, but it would have to be really bad for like another lockdown to be considered. Can you imagine going back into lockdown?
Oh God, no.
Yeah, and that's what I'm worried about. I mean, I'm buoyed by the news that this 4th dose is going to be opened up. I believe Atagi's confirmed that now.
To over 30s, yeah, they'll now be able to get it.
I'm buoyed by that.
Are you going to rush out and get one?
I think I would. I think that still being only advised for people over 50. But if it's available, like I've said before on the record, that I would bathe in vaccine. I think it'd be great. Like, just, I would love it. I'd drink it if I could. Don't drink it.
That
But
is not Dr.
That's not medical
Kerry Chant
advice.
would not. She would not.
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
us
you're
to
right.
do
Dr.
that.
Kerry Chant is. I'm not a mouthpiece for her. So yeah, like I would as soon as I could. At the moment, especially because I had COVID at the start of the year in the first Omicron wave, and everything was a nightmare in New South Wales. And since then, after that, I got my booster, so I'm triple vaxxed and have had COVID. But I'm probably coming up to a time now where my immunity is technically meant to be waning. So I reckon, within the next month or so, especially if cases keep on rocketing up, then I just get that extra level of defence.
I won't rush out and get it.
No.
But like if Dr. Chant keeps nagging me, I probably will. Whatever she tells me to do.
I know. We are but your soldiers,
Indeed.
Dr. Chant. Sorry. J-Law, it's come to my attention that a lot of our listeners have been sending me some complaints
Oh, yes.
because while I was away, you and Liz did a great job. However, you did not uphold breaking newsings. The brilliant segment that I came up with.
We did it once.
Did I forget about it last week when we were back together? Yes, I did. However, I've been made aware of it, and I apologise, Flash Drivers. I apologise. The segment is back, where Jayla and I each bring an item of news from the week that we have been musing over, and we think that you should be musing over as well.
What is your breaking musing, Georgie?
Thank you, J-Law, and I can confirm it is breaking musing. I've remembered what I named the segment. Mine is, at the moment, travel. Within Australia, outside of Australia, I'm about to unfriend every person that I know on social media who is in Europe right now because rude of them to be enjoying their rights to leave this country and have holidays. What? While it's raining here non-stop. Anyway, that's one of my breaking musings. But really, in terms of travel, I mean planes and just the absolute airport chaos right now. Like, I've been traveling a lot recently over the last few months, and it's not been great. It's not been great. All of the news reports that you see of the reporter there being like, 15 flights cancelled just this morning alone. True. Actually true. And it is chaos. And people who have been saving up their money, getting vaccinated, getting that annual leave, all organised, families going to the airport, so excited to leave the country for the first time in 2 years, only to be told, oh, that flight doesn't exist anymore, cancelled. It's just, we've done a really nice explainer on Flash, so I recommend everyone going to watch that, about why it's happening, some of the causes, and when we might be able to return to actually peaceful travel, whether it be interstate or international, because it is an absolute nightmare at Australian airports right now. And
has that happened to you? Like, have you, because you've been flying back and forth from Sydney to Melbourne and back a lot of late, have you just had flights just, boom, gone?
Cancelled or delayed, but like a delay of not half an hour, 5 hours usually, and it's not until you're at the airport that they'll tell you. So then you're that person that's, trying to desperately locate a PowerPoint to plug in your phone or something to do on the floor of the airport while you're filling in time.
Yikes.
It has. And I've been, lining up outside of the terminal just trying to get through security. I no longer travel at all with check-in luggage. I would recommend no one do that if possible. It's hard, though, if you've got a family of 5.
Sure.
Travelling, right? But it's just it's absolutely nightmarish and chaotic trying to drop any kind of luggage off, just the lines to get through security. It really puts you off, actually, which is a shame, because it's exciting that we're able to travel, and so many of us have forgotten how to do it and have forgotten how to have something to look forward to. And the reward is get there even earlier than you usually would.
Still worth it, probs.
Still worth it, probs. Yeah. Just have like a memory that you can, choose to erase. Maybe that would be a fun tip. Something for me to work on. That'd be a good skill. Yeah. Anyway, I'm really glad that Breaking Musings has come back.
Well, now we can stop the complaints, listeners.
People power.
Georgie, we've got a very exciting thing that's coming to Flash next week.
What is it?
There's a documentary called Trump Unprecedented. And this is like so explosive a documentary that it's actually been subpoenaed to be put in as evidence at the January 6th Capitol riots hearing.
Oh my God, that's huge.
It's a big deal. I've seen the trailer and it looks great. So it's interviews with Donald Trump. It's interviews with all of his the major players, his daughter, his sons, all opening up about his time in the White House, and also crucially about the January 6th, the riots and what they had to say in real time as that was unfolding. So it's going to be a great documentary. And the way that like the trailer is kind of cut up, it kind of makes it look like Succession. So I'm like really excited for that. We've only just kind of inked the deal to get it onto the platform. So it will be next week, but we don't know exactly when it will be dropping. But don't worry, if you're on Flash, you will see it because we're going to give it a big push.
Is it something that the Trumps themselves have kind of initiated? Like they've been like, yeah, follow us around. What could go wrong? Just the insurrection at the Capitol.
Yeah, look, it's a totally authorized documentary and big in-depth interviews with all of the family members. So, it's a bit tight-lipped about what revelations are in it, but they were kind of there in the dying days of the Trump White House, so it's going to be fascinating.
Wow. We should watch that. We should have a Flash. We should have a Flash
watching
party.
Yeah.
To watch it with the popcorn and all things. Like, can we say Gogglebox? Yeah, like Gogglebox.
Gogglebox is a Foxtel production.
Oh, it is too! Like Gogglebox. There we go. I was like, shit, what channel is that? What channel is that? I will watch.
Yeah, check that out.
Well, J-Law, we're going to be back next week. Will we get a slow news week, do you think?
It's unlikely in my experience.
It really is. It really is. So, Flash drivers, you just look forward to the content that is coming your way next week. J-Law, it's been a pleasure once again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Remember, guys, here at Flash and Flash Drive, it's all about the news you need, how you want, and when you want it. If you enjoy the news and this podcast and want to learn more about Flash, you can sign up at flashnews.com.au or click the link in the show notes. Flash lets you stream more than 25 news channels in the one place. New customers get 1 month free by using the code FLASHDRIVE, all caps, all one word. But hurry, this is only available for a very limited time. Start streaming your news today.